Check this out. It's from the front page of the Wall Street Journal this morning. It's a report that claims intelligence officials are withholding information from President Trump because they don't trust him. He is the President of the United States. They don't trust him. The Director of National Intelligence, I should say the acting director, is downplaying this report, saying it's not true. Given that, notwithstanding that, let's bring in Republican from Iowa, Congressman Steve King. Congressman, I've said very clearly this morning, I think that the administration is being sabotaged from within. What say you?
I do. I think they're pushing it back on him in many, many ways, but especially the intelligence community. To have all these stories that are coming out and leaking out, and now the one, of course, with regard to General Flynn, but this specific topic that was in the Wall Street Journal, to think that the intelligence community could withhold even classified information from the briefings that would get to the President of the United States. It's one of the reasons why I voted against the legislation that set up the Director of National Intelligence, because, at least in theory, he's the gatekeeper on the intelligence the President gets to hear. There's a lot of power in that position. We just don't have Dan Coats confirmed yet either. So it's a double vulnerability in this case. And I think the President needs to go in and purge out of the intelligence community any of the moles that can be identified. And we know there are patriots there to do that for him.
Very difficult thing to do, though. But this sabotage leaking is illegal, flat out illegal. So the President has every right to go figure out just who did this. I want to move on to another subject, which is the border tax. That's the border adjustment tax, supposedly 20% on everything that comes into the country. You say it's not going to happen. Why do you say that?
Well, I just looked at the imports coming in from Mexico and multiplied it times 0.2, and I think Steve King and Stuart Varney would come up with the same number. It was $54 billion. So that would build the wall about, I don't know, 3 or 4, maybe even 5 times every year. We don't need that much money for one thing. It starts a trade war for another. I'd rather see us tax the remittances, the $60 billion or so that are being transferred south of the border. And then another thing that Jim Sensenbrenner brought up is, of all of the resources that are confiscated when we're moving in on drug dealers, let's put all of that into the border finances also. A lot of ways to finance this border, but we don't need to start a trade war.
Regardless of the rights or wrongs of the border tax, I don't think the votes are there in Congress to push it through. Do you think that they've got the votes? I don't think so.
No, I don't think the votes would be there. This Congress still remains to be predominantly a free but a smart trade House of Representatives. And so anytime, we've had litigation back and forth on NAFTA. We've lost that a few times. I think that we're sensitive to that. We want to keep the trade open, but we want to secure our border. We want to build a wall. I say a fence, a wall, and a fence to secure this border. And then, as President Trump said, he wants some wide gates. Well, I'm fine with widening the gates, increasing our efficiency there, so there aren't long legal lines waiting to go back and forth from America. But let's make sure it's legal, and let's cut off all that contraband, those $60 billion worth of illegal drugs that are coming into America that just happens to match the remittances that are going the other way.
That's interesting. Steve King, Congressman, Republican, Iowa, thanks for joining us, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.
All right.